pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. We're going to start with council reports.
I get to go first.
And I will start with Councilmember Nisco.
I don't have much for last week, but this coming week, besides our city meetings, I have a Housing Behavioral Health Board meeting, and then we have city manager interviews the rest of the week.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Krantz.
Is it?
Tomorrow I will be attending my monthly Criminal Justice Board meeting. And it looks like next Tuesday we're going to have another study session for the City of Shelton Council. I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving, I'm sure, as everyone else is. And I'm also looking forward to an activity that happens the first Friday every December, in downtown Shelton, and that's where we kind of close off the downtown street, and we have, you know, this magical holiday event that happens. It's kind of, we turn downtown Shelton into like Disneyland for the evening, and there's bus rides and hot dogs and fire pits and lights and Christmas carols and a tree lighting ceremony. So I'm looking forward to that and reminding everybody that that's the first Friday of December every year, and it grows bigger and bigger and bigger.
Thank you, Councilmember. That was a great addition. Thank you. Make sure everyone turns out for that. My week last couple of weeks, I attended the Mason County Housing Authority meeting. Also attended the chamber luncheon where they had some information about forecasting and data for Mason County, which was really similar to some of the stuff we've seen in our Shelton economic plan, and also had a report on Mason County realty markets, which was very interesting. This upcoming week, like everyone else, will be involved with study sessions and also the city manager interview process. So I encourage everyone to come out to that. The open forum is Thursday the 29th, correct? At 6 o'clock.
5 to 6, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, okay, Deputy Mayor.
In addition to what's already been mentioned here this evening, I'm also excited to see that we have our real estate forum coming up on the first week of December, and so I'm looking forward to having some good interaction at that. And we'll be attending the Economic and Innovation Expo the first week in December at Little Creek Casino.
I had kind of a quiet week this week. Last week I got away for a few days, which was nice for some rest and relaxation. Absolutely did nothing. Laid on the couch, watched Netflix 24 hours a day. That's great. Anyway, revived me. Today I went to a ribbon cutting for South Sound Appliance. It used to be Repairs. Appliance Repair Plus. So they changed the name. Their store is getting bigger. So if you ever want top-notch customer service and an appliance, go there because they take really good care of you. And I think that's it.
Councilmember Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, I'd like to take an opportunity to follow up from our study session last week. I got some papers I'm going to hand down. Take one, pass it down, and one to Donna for the record, please. At the end of the meeting, study session last Tuesday, there was some concern and I'll say slight contention about the pace at which we're moving with the tiny homes project, specifically around the opportunities that exist with funding potentially being removed or eliminated if we don't move forward by a certain time frame. And the time frame in January was floated a few times. During the week, I reached out to the Department of Commerce, the people responsible for the Housing Trust Fund, and asked sort of some specifics so I could get a better understanding. With you is the email correspondence I had with Ann Campbell at Commerce. And if you look through my highlights, I apologize, I did it by hand, but I think you can kind of bear with me just from the beginning. She assured me that, actually unequivocally, that the funding for the Shelton Innovative Housing Direct Appropriation will not expire if the project hasn't moved forward by January 1st, and that Commerce has already included this project in the list of projects that will need reappropriation authority in its submission to the Governor's Office for all capital budget items. This is common and routine, as she points out. And one of the other pieces here is especially in light that the funding was only appropriated in January of 2018. So with that, and it goes on to explain a little bit more about how the contracting process is working with community frameworks and the subsequent breakdown of the $3 million appropriation. So that being said, I'll restate the fact that I believe it is important to take the time for us to do the diligence of understanding the housing crisis in Shelton and put forward a strong effort from this council to ensure that the housing needs are met and within the vision and design that this council is going to set forward for the future. That being said as well, there really hasn't been a housing need assessment done in the city since 2002 for our comprehensive plan, correct, Mark? Correct. Thank you. So I believe this is time that we can spend really focusing and drilling down, really understanding the issue here before we move on to any specific action or advocacy on this front. So I just ask you to take that into consideration as we move things forward here, and I will yield my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'll just mention that we have discussion on that, or what priorities we can add that to our new items for discussion as far as study sessions and things like that, if we want to discuss timing of that as a council. So I will go back and ask for an approval of the agenda or anything to add or remove from the agenda from the council tonight. Any additions, deletions? Okay, so we'll move ahead with the agenda. Next is time for general public comment. We're accepting comment on certain items tonight. We have public hearings on the final 2019 budget, surplus property, and also business items and action items are all available for public comment by item. So this is a time for comments that are not on those agenda items. So, and we have a 3-minute limit on our comments. And Donna, do we have anyone for general public comment?
I have Mike Warjones.
Evening, Mike.
Good evening, everybody. I see we have the Tom Davis clock clicking over here, which is good. My name is Mike Warjohn.
You gotta push the button, it's not clicking down.
Yeah, start it. There we go.
Yeah,
Great.
come on.
My name is Mike Warjohn. I'm here on behalf of Quixote Communities, the organization that's promoting the new Tiny House Veterans Village. And I've spent a few days in town talking to people sort of in the community, and I'm hearing a lot of different stories about what this village is really about, what it stands for. And so I think it's probably time to go on the record with the real story. And so I think that we're going to have a lot more conversations, as Councilmember Schmidt pointed out. But I think that early on, it's important for people to know that the Quixote model is sober. So you can't live in this community unless you're sober. You're not admitted to the community unless you're sober, and you have to be willing to submit to a test at any time to prove that you still are sober. These people live in a community where they support each other in their sobriety, and that's really important because that sense of community is the secret sauce. If you ask any of the people that live in Quixote Village what they like the most about being there, they say, for the first time in my life, I can go to sleep at night and I finally feel safe. I'm not going to be attacked. I'm not going to be assaulted. No one's going to steal my stuff. I can have a good night's sleep in my own house and really work on these issues in my life that are important with a community of people that really are willing to help me in that mission. We have people on staff that make sure these people can the residents can fill out job applications, college applications, vouchers. If they need medical support, we can help arrange for that and make sure that it is a success, and it has been a success. And really, the litmus test that I like to use is, if you talk to the police department in Olympia, or you talk to the city council in Olympia, they're actually they're a little bit upset with Senator Shelton for taking $3 million and running to Mason County with it, because they'd really like to have another Quixote Village in Olympia, and right now you have the opportunity to have one here. And I'm sure they're going to be next. When the next budget rolls around, they're going to say, we want to have another one here in Olympia. So It's really important that people understand that the safety of the residents and the people that live around the community is priority number one. You do not get to enter Coyote Village without checking in, because the people that live there don't want any strangers coming in. They're very comfortable with the fence around the property, making sure they don't have anybody coming into their village that they don't know about. And, you know, that's why I think we have so much support with the community and our neighbors. And I mean, my kids trick or treat there. So I think I'll just leave it at that for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Next, Donna.
Next, we have J.C. Osterberg.
Good evening. Hi, my name is J.C. Osterberg, and I'm the program manager at Coyote Village in Olympia, which the prospective Shelton Village will be based out of. And I just wanted to come and talk about my support for the village. I've worked at Coyote Village for over 3.5 years. I worked there for about 2 years as the case manager there, and now I'm the program manager. And like Mike said, the secret sauce is really the community aspect of it. And so this is really a community of support for people. And that's part of the reason why we are so stable. You don't see people coming in and then going back out to the streets at all. There's really a peer mentorship model supported within that. And also the security. I know that there's a lot of hearsay about what the general homeless person looks like, and there's a lot of fear around it and criminality around it. If you asked a police officer in Olympia, you know, about Coyote Village, either A, they'll say they love it, or B, they'll say, what is that? Because they don't get calls. There's not violence that's going on there. There's not drugs going on there at all. So I think a lot of the perception of what's going on is not accurate. And I have seen it day in and day out for over 3.5 years, and I really hope that we are able to bring a community like that here. We do give tours at Coyote Village, so I have my cards with me. I have some flyers if anyone wants to speak with me after this meeting. I'm really happy to give you my number if you want to come see what it's like for yourself. That would be lovely. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Davis.
Good evening,
Evening, Don.
council members, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't intending to speak tonight, but I wanted to. I think it warrants some kind of comment when the conversation is not around whether or not the funding will continue to exist, but whether or not the problem will continue to exist. If you give me any good cause, I can probably, off the top of my head, give you 10 reasons why we shouldn't do it. And we probably come to an agreement on why we shouldn't do it. But there's always one reason to do something, and that's to alleviate a problem. Because after we come to the end of our discussion, the problem will still exist unless we take action and do something about it. In this particular case, with this particular issue, I think we can all agree that we have a problem, and that the only solution to this problem of homelessness is homes. It's not conversation. It's not a lot of the other considerations that may or may not exist, but getting people off the street, out of the business community, giving them an opportunity to succeed, and basically resolve a problem that has a very definite brick and mortar solution. It's not often that you can get a problem resolved with a brick and mortar solution. In this case, you can. This is another rare opportunity for people outside government who have stepped up and have looked at this problem and have taken upon themselves to advocate for in this case, veterans, and get to a solution to the problem. So maybe it's not a great idea to look a gift horse in the mouth too closely. Everybody here is altruistic who is working on this problem. Everybody here has the best intentions. We want to do what's good for the community. I think we've all come to an agreement that at least that to this extent that we want to pursue this effort. But I would hate to see it have a string of conditions that go on and on and on. because the problem, I guarantee you, is not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
No more, Jen.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Okay, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as published?
I move to approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as published. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Okay, at this point, we're going to recess out to a public hearing on the 2019 final budget for the city of Shelton. I'll turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Mayor Rogers, council members. As I stated with the public hearing for the Shelton Metropolitan Park District, tonight's hearing is on the final budget. And also, as I explained, the reason for that is to meet the statutory requirement to begin the public hearing process on the final budget on or before December 1st. Because that falls somewhat out of sync with the council meeting schedule, we determined that it would be in the best interest to meet the statutory requirement, officially open the public hearing on the final budget tonight, and then instead of closing the public hearing, you would simply continue the public hearing to December the 4th. As you know, there's another study session scheduled for next Tuesday, at which time I expect that any questions and answers, any questions that you have and answers that staff will provide will be entertained at that meeting on next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
And I'll ask Sandy if she has anything else to comment on in terms of the progress that we're making on developing the budget for you in a final form.
As Mike stated, we do have the final, we have the next study session next Tuesday, where we'll continue the discussion that we started last week, which was on the general fund and street fund, if council has any follow-up questions after that meeting. We'll also be getting into the utility budgets a little bit at the study session next week. And then hopefully wrapping up any final questions and bringing forth on the December 4th meeting, the final budget with any just either corrections or additions or deletions that council has requested, and bringing you the final numbers then at that time for that continuation of the public hearing.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Any questions from the council tonight, or wait for a study session? Okay, public comments on the budget?
No.
All right, so can I have a motion to continue the public hearing for the 2019 budget until December 4th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to continue the public meeting on December 4th for 2019 city budget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So we're continuing the budget hearing till December 4th. And now we will open a public hearing on surplus real estate, and we turn it over to Mark. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. The city has a parcel located at 120 West Neelan Street that was obtained in 2013 through a tax foreclosure sale. Staff has determined there's no reasonable use allocated for the property and would recommend the council declare the property surplus. I think this might be familiar to the council, as a few weeks ago we brought this to the council for declaration of surplus without the public hearing, and that was an error of RCW 39.33.020, which requires a public hearing if the property is estimated to be a value over $50,000. The county assessor currently has the property listed at $63,750 on their assessor's website. So that's why we're bringing it to you today, this public hearing and action later on in the agenda. There's a resolution attached to this, obviously, that would declare surplus. With the council's approval of the surplus, we would list the property through broker services for sale.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Any?
Questions or comments? Yeah.
You can go ahead, Councilmember.
Just the $63,000, that is not a figure that we're putting out that the property's for sale for. That's just what's listed with the assessor's office.
Correct.
And then we had kind of talked about the fact that that property has some unique characteristics, mainly grandfathered water and sewer hookup fees for a number of units in there, and that staff is aware that maybe when we determine a price on that property, that those, we would probably be negotiating those kind of fees into the sale of this property.
The value will be determined through the broker services, so any constraints as well as benefits with the property will be included in discussions with that broker, and they can determine the market value at that time for the property.
Thank you.
Okay, any public comments on this one?
No.
Okay, thank you, Donna. I guess we will close the public hearing for the real estate on 120 West Nealon Street. So we'll now move into our business agenda, and I'm going to ask Donna for, do we have public comments on both issues?
On the business agenda, just on the 2019 legislative review and innovative housing.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with item 1, which is about the library board, and turn it back to Director Mark Ziegler.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I briefed the council at the study session last week, asking for some direction on next steps with the library board. As you know, the existing city code references a library board prior to annexation with Timberland Regional Library District. I had the pleasure of attending the library board's meeting last Friday and have a discussion, productive discussion with the members of that board. And I believe Claire Vosco and Jerry Berger are here, and I can pass it on to Claire, I believe, will be commenting tonight and addressing the council with, I think, some comments and perspective from the board themselves.
Okay, so Claire, come on up.
Good evening.
Evening, Claire.
And my name is Claire Voskel, and I'm currently on the library board, the Shelton Library Board. Originally, Shelton had a city library, and the library board was charged in the obtaining and maintaining a building, hiring a librarian, and overseeing the purchase of books for the library. And all of these duties were laid down by the board's bylaws, which were part of the city code. Eventually, the Shelton Library leased library services from Timberland Regional Library System, and in 2009, Shelton residents voted to annex the library to Timberland. Timberland now provides the library staff and is responsible for the purchase of books and other resources. This leaves only the physical building in the city's care, and we, the board, feel that as the library manager and city custodial and maintenance staffs are in frequent contact concerning the upkeep and maintenance of the building, we've come to the point in the history of the library where there is no need for a city library board. We are still avid advocates for the Shelton Timberland William G. Reed Public Library, and I think we have the longest name in Timberland, but ask that you consider disbanding the library board. We do hope that you all will take the time to discover and take advantage of all the resources that our library system has to offer. The modern library of today is no longer just about books. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire, and thank you for being on the board in the past. Thank you very much. So, do we have a consensus from the council to move this forward for an action next meeting?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
In the meantime, if you'll indulge me, I have a certificates of appreciation for our library board members, and certainly can present those to Jerry and Claire tonight, and I'll get the certificates out to the other members. But we really appreciate, from staff's perspective, we really appreciate, any public involvement, especially these dedicated folks that have been looking over our library and paying attention and taking such such dedicated care in their work that they were charged with, and we certainly hope that they have the opportunity to continue serving the city. And as I mentioned last Friday, is that I'm available. Our maintenance staff is available. Certainly, if there's conditions or concerns, that they are free to contact us at any time, and we'll address them much like we did when there was a formal board intact.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move that forward to next meeting. Okay, next on the business agenda is the legislative update from Senator Sheldon, who we're glad to come tonight. So Senator Sheldon, come on up. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. It's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to returning to Olympia and advocating and representing the city again for another 4 years. First of all, thanks to Tom and Mike and JC for providing more information on the Veterans Village project. It's really exciting to me. Probably one of the things that I've worked on that has potential to be extremely meaningful. You think of cities and states around the Northwest here in Washington, how we react and how we work together on sewer projects and transportation, street projects, economic development projects, stormwater projects. But I can't think of a city that has worked together with a state on a Veterans Village before. I think it will be an outstanding project. The time I've spent over at Quixote Village and talking to staff and others and talking to residents has really opened my eyes to the importance of this. And I think we just have a great opportunity to work together on it. Joe, thank you very much for talking to Ann at the Department of Community Development and clarifying about the process for reappropriation. So I'm not worried at all that we will continue to have our $3 million here. I hope that we can move it ahead quickly. The staff has given me an opportunity to go out and look at the site. I think it's a great site. It's got the accessibility, the things that are necessary. And I'd like to, hopefully we can break ground in the spring, and next Thanksgiving there'll be residents there enjoying Thanksgiving dinner. That would be just terrific. So I'm very excited about it. Quickly, just on upcoming projects, I know you, or the city, is finishing up on the water and sewer project here. It's been a little tough summer for some of the residents here. When I was running for office, I didn't want to claim much credit for that because you guys got the blame. But I think it's going to turn out to really be an eye-opening change for the city. Lots of good things happening. I've had opportunity to be over at Sierra Pacific several times. I know you have too, to go through just a world-class mill. They are a tremendous company. You've met their leadership. I've had a chance to do that too. They will provide good jobs here, and they're still looking for some people, obviously. I mean, almost 300 new jobs. The fact that that's generating a B&O tax now and that wasn't before, that's a big help to the city, I'm sure. And I'm just totally impressed with what they have. You go through and you see the machine shop, that services all 4 mills, the CNC machinery that they have. And it's exciting to know that, today when you're a mechanic and you got to have a part, now it's great. You can get it on Amazon. You might be able to get it in a day or two. You might be able to find it. Well, these guys, they from down in Anderson, California, they can their engineers can design that part probably in an afternoon, send it up to those machines, and that next day or that next hour, they can be building that machine or that part. That's really exciting. Where else can you do that and not be down, but have that part they're built right at the mill and put in the machinery, and production can resume or production can speed up, and that machine shop services all 4 mills here in Washington. So it's really innovative. Talking to the people and what they've done with their computer system, their IT, they don't use contractors anymore. They do it themselves. They learned it and do it themselves. And that's just fantastic for jobs and the openings that we have and the skill sets that are necessary. So I don't have a whole lot on the presentation. I would sure welcome your questions. We're going to convene again on the second Monday of January, like we always do. You're always welcome to come down. I'll be primarily in the same office. Got the same parking spot. That's what seniority gets you. That's it, though. The good parking spot. No other guarantees. But it's exciting, I think, because our state is moving forward. We've had an unprecedented revenue in the last few years. So there's great opportunities for partnerships with the cities and the counties. I hope that you're working well with the county as well. It takes everybody to make Mason County a better place. And when you look back over time, you see some wonderful improvements here. So please come down and talk about all the things that are on your mind. I know I'll be on the Transportation Committee. Again, I assume that they haven't set the committee structure quite yet, but I hope to, again, return to the Transportation Committee and Energy, Environment, and Telecommunications. That may change. They always do when a new majority comes in. There's new members, and usually you have more committees. So we'll see. But any questions I can help you with?
Any questions for the senator tonight?
I have a couple comments.
Sure.
First, I was out in my yard the other day, Sunday, I think, and I heard the train. And I thought, that's just a wonderful sound that's coming through town. We know there's a business down there. For a while, there was no train.
Yeah.
Now the train is whistling, and it was wonderful. Tiny homes, thank you very, very much. I helped with the landscaping of a house out towards Olympia, just a little ways. And there were 3 veterans there. 2 of them had no legs, and the other was paralyzed. Mm. And I think to myself, I don't get emotional here. I think to myself that we are in a country that has so many freedoms, and the men that have fought and come home without limbs, and some of them don't even come home, we need to take care of them. And these tiny homes are a way that we can do that as a community. So thank you very much.
Well, we have a lot to be thankful for. I'll tell you just a quick story. We had a presentation in Olympia the other day in our Transportation Committee about the theft of that Horizon jet. And the FBI has just determined that it was just this fellow Russell who did it. And so when he got in the jet, it's a prop jet, he was able to taxi out just in the right spot between aircraft, and the wind was right, and he's in the air. So the word goes out, and the Air National Guard in Portland is notified. Well, the pilots there, one fellow had a satchel all prepared because his wife was just about to go into labor. But when they heard the horn, they get in the jet. That's what you do. They were here. I asked how long did it take to get up to Puget Sound, and they were out over Hood Canal at that time. How long did it take? And he says, well, it's really classified, but it's less than 7 minutes from Portland. Of course, they broke the sound barrier getting here. But I go to meetings quite often in Portland at the Sheraton Hotel right at the airport. And when those jets take off, there's 6 of them down there, everything stops because you can't hear anything. But not one person complains after the noise stops. Nobody says anything derogatory about those guys. So after they had completed their mission, and people know the results of that, that fellow, they landed the jets at McCord, and we're going to refuel. Well, that pilot's wife was now in labor, so they refueled the jet in the air so he could go back to Portland, get his bag, and be there for the birth. It's pretty neat. So our veterans do a lot for us, so I appreciate your comment.
Any other questions or comments for the senator?
Well,
Councilmember
I
Kraft?
guess just working with Tim and the city of Shelton and the legislature for the past 7 years, we are very fortunate, extremely fortunate to have the senior senator be in our district, and that we have been down there sometimes, once a week, and, your office staff is always so wonderful, and we buy the dozen flowers and then we cut them down and only give them 3 at a time, so, stretch them out a little bit, but, it's that one-on-one contact, that personal relationship. Other cities don't have that. And we have been extremely blessed to have the ability to have access to a phenomenal amount of grant money, and that, this doesn't always get out in the media, but trust me, the projects that we're doing right now on grant money and a relationship with our legislator down there, and thanks also to Dan Griffey and Drew McEwen, who we've worked hand in hand with. I mean, we have a relationship for the next 2 years that we just owe a great gratitude to you and your staff, and it's just been helped us immensely coming from some really bad financial turns we've had, that we are on a much better footing now, a lot due to you, Senator.
Well, you guys are doing a great job, and I really appreciate it. So we're lucky that the city's close, that you can get over there. So
Yeah,
come on down.
Between your house and there is here.
That's right.
You stop in and then you're going to go over there, right?
That's it.
I just
Great.
want to reinforce Councilmember Cruntz. I appreciate both your efforts and Dan Griffey's and Representative McEwen's, and we really look forward to working with all 3 of you in the next few years. So thank you very much.
Come on down.
Okay.
All right, we'll do. Thank you.
Okay, we have now public comment for this business agenda item.
First, we have Mary Loftus.
Well, good evening. So my name is Mary Loftus, and I've lived in Shelton and Mason County for 27 years, and I represent 5 generations in Shelton. And I wanted to make a statement about the proposed tiny home project set to be built within a mile of the home that we built 20 years ago. Just a slightly different perspective than what we've heard here. I do care deeply about our veterans and the homeless. But I do have several concerns about this project, so that's why I'm here tonight. I feel like this is not even a Band-Aid for our affordable housing crisis in our county and our region. To me, it seems like these are fancy sheds, and I'm sorry I haven't gone to tour. I should go do that. But I feel like it's not permanent housing, it's just temporary. So I'm afraid this will do little to help our veterans and others move forward in their lives. Building off-site and bringing it in, I think, will not help our local economy, which we need. And then what about the stress on the already limited mental health, medical emergency services? And I just have some questions about who foots the bill for maintenance, cleanup, policing. And the location is handy, but I feel like it's too close to our schools, the walking path, the wooded Huff and Puff, the disc golf course, not to mention our brand new YMCA. So I have some concerns about that. And then with the money, the amount of money spent to build these homes, I think we can do better with that amount of money. I think we must do better. Our veterans deserve it. Our homeless need hope and a path to a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Next is John O'Sullivan.
Good evening.
Evening, John.
Good evening, Senator Sheldon. Senator Sheldon is the only Democrat I've ever voted for. Reason being, this man gets stuff done. Okay, he just doesn't talk, he gets it done, and that's what I like, and he helps the working people. And I really appreciate what he's done as far as getting us grants for the tiny homes. And I just like to mention, I lived in a tiny home before it was cool. It wasn't a buzzword. It was living in a tiny home because it was a necessity. That's the only thing I had to live in. Luckily, I had an environment where I could be outside, so the outdoors was my living room. And I just think we're just using that buzzword, tiny home, as a political pawn. And in reality, taking $3 million and building an apartment complex that's houses all the veterans and has a more centralized facility that shares the same plumbing, shares the same electrical, shares the same life safety systems, would make more sense. And then even if that cause went away and they went somewhere else, that situation could be used, that apartment complex, for something else. And I heard, I've tried to find this, I couldn't find it before the meeting, but I heard the 8x12 garden shed, what I'd like to term it to, and I know there's one council person here that has a garden shed that's bigger than 8x12. I'm not going to say any names, but I just think that money could be spent towards building something more permanent and not just a buzzword, not just something cool, but and then it would be able to facilitate things in the long term. And then also I wanted to say, what do I want to say? But anyways, I just think it would be important to really, before we spend all that money on these garden sheds, that we really put some thought into it. I've built plenty of garden sheds that people have lived in and I've lived in too, but I think we could do more with that and be stewards. Senator Sheldon got us that money, and we all have an impact we can do here. We can all say things to make it sure that we're good stewards of that money and it's spent wisely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Emily Stevens.
My name is Pam Stevens. I live in the city of Shelton, and I wanted to talk tonight about the tiny homes and the impact it will have on our community. I only have 3 copies. I'm very sorry, because they're 7 pages each. But this is the 911 call record for Coyote Village for the last several years. If you look, almost all of those phone calls are to the police department. They are assaults, there, robbery, like theft, there's suicide in there, there's all kinds of stuff in there. And if you look at those, a lot of those calls have 2 officers that show up. The city of Shelton has 2 officers on duty at a time. And because of our jail situation, we often have 1 officer driving, someone to a new jail, a different jail, because we have a housing problem with our jails. So I feel like it's kind of like we're in a rock and a hard place with this, because if you say this isn't a good idea, you're saying I don't want to help the vets. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, how is it determined that it should go in Shelton? Did anyone say, does Shelton have the room for this? Does Shelton have the infrastructure for this? Is there a spot for this? How is that even determined? I understand that it was kind of dropped in your guys' laps, and that's frustrating. There should be some research involved. There should be some funding for our police and EMS and mental services before moving forward with a lease agreement or breaking ground in the spring or any of those things. Our police force is funded by taxpayers' dollars. So the added drain and strain that this is going to cause, which there's proof it's going to cause, is going to come from the taxpayers' wallets. So this is more than let's house the vets. This is, does this fit Shelton? Can Shelton support it? Because the funding is only for the building. If you read through the paperwork, the funding doesn't even cover the furniture. It doesn't cover the land. It covers the building, which is built off-site, as I just learned. So I'm very much against it at this point. Like, there needs to be better funding for Shelton in terms of supporting it. I have a very big concern with the location. It's next to our schools. It is next to outdoor activities. It's on a walking path. It's not a good location. Do we need housing for vets? Yes. Do we need it next to our schools? No. Can Shelton support it? Not currently. So what are we going to do about those needs? They call it sober living. If you go to Coyote's website, it says that we understand the complexity of addiction and we work with addicts at every stage. Tim Sheldon's website calls it a housing first approach. Housing first means we get them in houses and then we deal with addiction. Are we prepared to deal with 30 plus potential homes dealing with addiction and those things?
Thank you, Pam.
I do have some handouts for everyone for more on my talking points. Because 3 minutes, you just don't really have time in 3 minutes to get everything said. Because this is a very concerning issue for me and my family. And okay, my name is Lori Watterson, and I have been a resident of the city of Shelton since April of 2001. My family, we have a long line of veterans in our family, and some of them never came home. I feel the tiny house project is a very good idea in theory, but the location where you want to put it is not. Because it was going to cost $3 million to build, and this does not include increasing the city infrastructure needed for such as police, mental health, and EMS. The plan is to build 30 small houses while Shelton has less than 20 homeless vets at the last count. No research has been done to see how many of these individuals would qualify for the housing. Any remaining tiny houses would be used for other Mason County homeless non-veterans. The public has been led to believe that this project will be housing for our vets, when in fact it only gives priority to our vets. And then anything that's left over goes to other needed those in need. The developers and supporters of this project are using a very specific term, homeless vets, to get funding and backing and community support. If you read the actual project agreement, only priority is given to homeless vets. Beyond that initial priority, it's open to all homeless, regardless of any prior military service or medical or mental issues. This is just one more instance of an organization exploiting a vulnerable element of the population to get funding and community support for their project. This project does not include any funding to help the city with the added police, fire, EMS, nor any other resources that would be needed. The area in question is currently being improved with family-oriented outdoor activities in mind. The location is less than half a mile from our public schools. It's right across the street from Christmas Village, where we have vulnerable senior citizens. It is on the walking path for children going to and from school, people enjoying outdoor hiking and walking, and the disc golf area. There are several assisted living facilities with vulnerable residents who use the walkways daily. And it's just frequented by a lot of our people who enjoy the outdoors. I think, and also our new YMCA. We want to bring business and people into the area, and I think that this would be bringing in crime and driving families away from this area that is recreational oriented. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lori.
I have one more.
Okay.
Joel Thompson.
Good afternoon. So you've seen all our other city members tell you about all these horrible things about a veteran small-based village and everything else, and we've heard that the problem isn't going away, and this isn't the solution. $125,000. There's a lot in Chehalis that sells homes. There's also one right down here. $80,000 delivered, 3-bedroom home, 2-bath. Those are delivered to right here. Stopped there today while I was on my lunch hour. There's been 145 911 calls on those sheets that are right there in front of you in the last couple of years. We don't have the infrastructure like they said. If you think these vets are going to just stay one to a home, you're crazy. I am a vet. We look out for other vets. We're going to have as many people living there as we can get. You've got a needle exchange coming to Shelton. I don't know if you know that or not. It's a mobile one. It's only going to compound the problem. Needle exchanges are great, but that disc golf park that we've got that everybody loves is going to become a haven. Nobody's going to be coming there. There goes tourism. The location drives me nuts also. You've got all the schools, the YMCA. I have to reiterate that. I'm all for helping out homeless veterans, but we can't put it there. There has to be another option. You've got $3 million. Get some more funding from Mr. Sheldon and get another piece of property. I'm sure we can find somebody that has something that's a little more not by all of our schools, YMCA, right by the, Walmart is the center of our town. That's where everybody comes into. It's Wallace, Neeland. I understand we're redeveloping downtown, but it's not there yet. We have a huge homeless problem as it is that we can't, our infrastructure cannot support. This is a bad idea at this structure or at this junction for Shelton. Sorry, my remarks are all over the place. I didn't get a whole lot of time to prepare. So it's not a good time for us, and I won't support it. Any council member that votes for it, I'm going to run against you next time. I don't support this. It's going to endanger my children that walk past that. To give you an idea of how committed I am, I pulled the numbers on my house last week. I have $105,000 in equity. You can ask my wife. You can ask the council member over there. I don't bluff. I will pull it. I don't support this. It's a horrible idea for us.
Thanks, Joe. All right. I want to appreciate everyone's comments tonight. They were on target and on subject, so thank you very much. So we'll move on to the action agenda. What items do we have public comment for tonight?
There are no more public comments.
On any of the action items? Okay. Thank you, Donna. Okay, first action item is ordinance number 1931-1118 relating to ad valorem taxes presented by City Manager, Interim City Manager Mike McCarty.
Thank you for clarifying that. It's getting more interim every day. Thank you very much. So I'm going to turn it over to Budget Director Sandy HINES to walk you through this. As you know, we had a public hearing on the ad valorem tax levy on November the 6th, and tonight is the opportunity to adopt this ordinance. So Sandy, do you have some clarifications?
I do, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. As previously done earlier with the Park District, this is the action agenda item for the property tax levy for 2019. This basically sets the levy by ordinance and allows us to then provide our certification of dollar amounts to the county so that they can levy on our behalf for revenue. As allowed in the RCWs, the council has the option of increasing the regular property tax and the EMS property tax levy by 1%. As the ordinance that's before you is an updated one from the previous agenda on the 6th, the regular levy is the same. The 1% increase provides for an additional $20,071.45. That's the 1% increase on the regular levy. The second section regarding the EMS levy is where the change is. Originally, the ordinance spoke to a very small increase, I believe less than 1% increase, $800 and some that was going to be the only amount that was going to be available to take on the EMS levy. After some further clarification with the assessor's office, Mason County Assessor's Office, and kind of going back and redoing that, there is no additional capacity within the highest lawful amount on the EMS levy. So we're not only held by within 50 cents per thousand by the statutory, we're also held to the highest lawful from the previous year. The assessor allows for add-on things such as state assessed utilities and refunds. This year for 2018, those add-ons added to the highest lawful. If we took our 1% on top of that number from the 2018, it would be above the highest lawful because the county backs off those add-ons. And so after the clarification with the county, what we're recommending in the ordinance now is basically no percentage and no dollar increase over the EMS levy. The county will take the highest lawful and provide that amount to us for next year. This just says we're not taking any 1% increase over 2018's amount. We also added some language in that says it reserves our reserves our right and authority to bank that kind of 1% and for future capacity. So the assessor's office will put that on the books, that there is that banked capacity then for future use, should we ever need it or be available to take it. So the ordinance before you is the updated one. Again, provides 1% on the regular levy, just over $20,000, and no percentage or dollar increase in the EMS levy.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. I guess I'll ask for the second reading of ordinance 1931-1118.
Ordinance number 1931-1118, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, increasing ad valorem taxes in the City of Shelton for calendar year 2019.
Do we have a motion? Or do we have this? Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 1931-1118, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington relating to increasing ad valorem taxes for calendar year 2019.
Thank you, Councilmember. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, now, is there any discussion? Hearing none. We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1931-1118, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington relating to increasing ad valorem taxes for calendar year 2019. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, next action item is back to surplus property, back to Director Ziegler, Resolution 1140-1118.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Staff is presenting to you today the property at 120 West Nealon Street as a parcel that the city no longer has a useful use for, and consideration for declaration of surplus.
Okay, so can I ask for reading of resolution number 1140-1118, please, Hines?
What number did you say?
1140-1118.
Yes.
Okay. Don't scare me.
It was scaring me too. Okay, here it is. Resolution number 1140-1118. A resolution of the City of Shelton, Washington, declaring certain real estate under city ownership surplus to the needs of the city.
Thank you. Are we good, council members? Okay. Okay, do we have a motion to accept the resolution?
My screen's out of whack, I can't find it.
I move to adopt resolution number 1140-1118, declaring certain real estate under city ownership surplus to the needs of the city.
Second.
Okay, discussion from the council on this resolution?
Just have one question. When we sell that property, that money will go into the general fund?
Correct.
Okay. Just wondering where it was going.
Okay. Anything else for Director Ziegler or others? Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 1140-1118, declaring certain real estate under city ownership surplus to the needs of the city. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, resolution is adopted. Next, back to Mark on the rotating art gallery for the Civic Center.
Thank you again. Tonight I'm bringing you forward the recommendation of 4 artists to be approved for the Civic Center rotating art gallery. I believe there's pictures of the art within your packets. The Arts Commission juried these works on October 30th, and it's making these recommendations today for approval to be installed on December 4th for a 3-month installation.
Thank you, Director Ziegler. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the Shelton Arts Commission's recommended artists for the Shelton Civic Center rotating art gallery for a 3-month term beginning December 4th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. We have a motion and a second to approve the Shelton Arts Commission recommended artists for the Civic Center rotating art gallery for a 3-month term beginning December 4th, 2018. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next action item. Back to Director Ziegler for the traffic box wraps, please.
Appreciate it. First and foremost, I want to thank the Martha Reed Foundation for their support in this project and bringing this forward to the city of Shelton. With their support, the city called for artists to submit photos of their original work to be juried for placement on traffic control signal boxes around town. As you know, those can often look blighted and graffitied and not very appealing. So when the Arts Commission received 6 different submittals, those went out for a public vote. The top 3 were juried by the Arts Commission, and bringing those to you tonight for final approval. With final approval tonight, we hope to have the art installed by the end of the year or somewhere quickly thereafter, the first of the year, weather dependent and contractor dependent.
Okay.
I move to approve the Shelton Arts Commission's recommendations for 3 traffic signal box art installations.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have discussion?
Cool.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing artwork, so.
Good stuff.
Mayor, council members, I would just like to personally thank Mark for spearheading this. And it was in that gray area of whose field it really fell in, and Mark just took it on and moved it forward. And I just want to personally thank him for doing that and getting this taken care of. It's been something that's been on our minds for quite some time, and for Mark to move it forward, I appreciate it.
Thanks for those comments, Greg. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the Shelton Arts Commission recommendations for 3 traffic signal box art installations. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Right, motion carries. Next, we have an item relating to procedure for sale of surplus real estate, and presented by Mark Ziegler.
Thank you. I think this is my last one. On the heels of the 120 West Nealon Street declaration of surplus, really taking a closer look at this surplus real estate sales policy and procedure that the city had, it bound us to go out for a new broker each and every time that we may have a property become surplus and go to sell it. And it really was onerous, not the best use of staff time and efficiencies. So made some edits to clarify this policy and determined that we could move forward with an RFP for broker services that would be provided to the city over a pre-distinguished amount of time per that RFP. Right now, we're thinking a year with an extension of possibly a year coming forward, but you would obviously see the approval of any contract in the future with real estate brokers. So we're just asking for approval tonight so we can move forward with this, and we will get an RFP out very soon in order to bring somebody on board to help us with the Nealon Street property.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. I'm going to ask for reading of Resolution 1138, 1018.
Resolution number 1138-1018, a resolution of the City of Shelton, Washington, establishing policy and procedure for the sale of surplus real estate.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 1138-1018, amending the City of Shelton surplus real estate sales policy.
Second.
Okay. A motion. Any discussion on this? I'm going to make one comment since we're going through these so quickly, is if you need our discussion on most of these, go back a meeting or two or study sessions, and you'll find lots of discussion on these. So we're kind of hitting these for the second or third time, so please do your research if you think we're running through these quickly.
Mayor, it's the glorious 3-touch process at its finest this evening.
So we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 1138-1018, amending the City of Shelton surplus real estate sales policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, next. Relating to vacation of streets and alleys, Director Gregory will update our new policy. Or
I will try and be as quick as Mark on these. But formulating an actual process for vacation in the past with that process on a case-by-case basis and not really having an actual process for vacation. I bring before you today the final draft of formalizing that process and not having it on that case-by-case basis, so making it much easier for staff to bring forward to the council for an educated decision on whether to vacate right-of-ways, alleys, or streets.
Okay. As for second reading of ordinance 1930-1018.
Ordinance number 1930-1018, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, adding a new chapter 12.18 to the City of Shelton Municipal Code relating to vacation of streets and alleys.
Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance 1930-1018, an ordinance adding a new chapter to the Shelton Municipal Code relating to the vacation of streets and alleys.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember
I
Schmidt.
appreciate the staff's time in rapidly developing this. A little over a month and a half ago, we were working through this issue. Again, I do appreciate how quickly our city staff and how hard you guys work in putting these things together to make the process much clearer and succinct as things move forward. So thank you.
Okay.
I was going to say the same thing, and, you know, with all policies, I'm sure we'll be tweaking this down the road, but thank you for getting it done so fast.
And the importance of that, we've had 2 inquiries on vacations since we started this process. So actually formalizing this, we put those folks off. So it'll be good to move them forward at this point.
And that was, go ahead,
Say,
Deputy Mayor.
and lastly, I would like to say that outside of formalizing sort of the informal practice that has already been going on, I really appreciate that this clarifies the expectations on both sides so that as city residents are considering what this might look like, they have a clear understanding of the process and what to expect, and that staff likewise has an ability to go back and use this as a template. So really do appreciate that clarification.
Okay, and my question was, do we have any formal applications at this time on someone's desk?
We have asked them to wait until we got through tonight and
Okay.
actually have a new application. So we have put them off and not accepted an application at this point. They've just been in the last week or 2. So,
Okay, so we have
they completely understood that
Okay.
there was a need to get through this before they actually put in an application.
And Mayor, just to clarify, did we not have a moratorium on this until the policy was presented? So we shouldn't have accepted any?
No, we did not set a formal moratorium. The understanding was it would be expressed perfectly clear
Yes.
that the policy was being worked on and was to be out soon. So we did not
that,
set a
and
formal.
we do not have any at this point, but we will be bringing at least 1, possibly 2 forward here in the next couple of weeks. So.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 1930-1018, an ordinance adding a new chapter of Shelton Municipal Code relating to vacation of streets and alleys. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you, and thanks, Craig, and
You're welcome.
everyone who worked on that. Thank you very much. Okay, next business item, or action item, excuse me, is 2018 fee schedule. Is kind of related to this, so back to Director Gregory.
So with actually passing that new process, that does have or cast the burden of the appraisal onto the applicant. And part of the reason for the $2,000 application fee was the city was responsible for paying for that in the past. So that is the reason for the reduction in the application fee from $2,000 down to $500, covering just overall staff time to get through the vacation process with that, again, that burden of the appraisal being on the applicant.
I'll ask for first and final reading of Resolution 1939-1118.
Resolution number 1139-1118, a resolution of the City of Shelton superseding resolution number 1133-0718, the city fee schedule revising fees.
Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt resolution 1139-1118, amending the city fee schedule.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 1939-1118, amending the city fee schedule. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, last action item is a discussion of sewer flow monitors. And Craig Gregory is going to tell us about that.
So this is a new item for you that you have not seen in the past. With the sewer comp plan coming up for an update in 2019, we have the need to conduct flow monitoring in 6 locations throughout Shelton to really get through what they want to see is the effect on the sewer system through 4 large storms. So it looks like it's going to be, right now, we're projecting to start in December and run that through at least February, depending on how many storms we actually get and affect the system. Originally, we thought this was going to come in as a monthly charge. It actually did, but it came more like in the form of a contract. So we felt the need to bring it to the council for approval. I'm not sure that it actually was needed, but I'd rather get it in front of you for approval before we actually start on it. It is budgeted. We shouldn't see any invoices with this going in December. We shouldn't see an invoice until January. It is budgeted or projected to be budgeted within the sewer fund if approved by the council for the sewer comp plan. So this would be figured into that overall comp plan. If not approved through the comp plan, we would, I believe, be able to absorb this cost. It's around $40,000. It would be very, very tight next year within the sewer budget in just operations, but we would absorb it in operations if you decide to not move forward with the sewer comp plan, which I would not recommend. But if we do have that, we certainly will start to plan and hopefully budget in the future.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the sewer flow monitoring and authorize the interim city manager to sign the data delivery service agreement.
Second?
Okay. Discussion and questions.
Mr. Mayor, question.
Yes, sir.
Would these be permanent monitoring stations?
They are not. They're installed within a manhole in designated locations, but we had several different options with this. It was to either purchase flow monitors outright. Those were at the amount of about $80,000 to $90,000 for the 6 monitoring stations. That would mean that overall the city staff would be maintaining those, collecting the data. So there would be a workload issue also. There's also the option of renting the equipment and us installing it, city staff installing it, and again, taking in the data and compiling that. Or there was this option, and at this point with the sewer staff being fairly limited, especially moving into a very heavy workload for them this time of the year and this season, we opted for this basically a rental option with the company ultimately uploading and compiling the data for us. But yes, that certainly was an option to purchase and leave installed. There are some major benefits to that. You can see how sewer basin projects certainly help the system, but at this point with that fairly lofty price tag, it was the staff's recommendation that we move forward with the lower cost option. You do have some issues with leaving those in. We have had issues the last time we actually went through this before the last sewer comp plan in 2013. We did lose 3 of the 6 sites due to heavy flow. I don't know, they were installed by the company, but we did end up losing them down the sewer system and actually had to catch them downstream. And they were at the point to, they were basically ruined at that point when we did recover them. So just figuring on all of those things, we decided to not take that risk and move forward with the temporary.
How are those installed?
They're basically, there's a couple of different ones. There's basically a sonar model that basically hangs inside of the manhole. There's another that's an in-line flow. Basically, it's for lack of a better term, it's a water wheel, basically, type system that hangs down into the flow line. So a couple different options, and we're working through that with the folks at Carollo right now who are engaged in our water comp plan and also did our last sewer comp plan, and they've helped us out. Not saying that they're the ones that will ultimately be picked to do the sewer comp plan, but they have been willing to help us out at no charge, getting through what the needs are of a sewer comp plan. So that help has been extremely beneficial to the city.
A couple questions. One is, I assume it's a pretty limited pool of contractors and suppliers who do this type of work.
We found 2.
Okay.
We found 2 on the West Coast. The other that we did contact was about a third again, the price that we found and ultimately ended up going with. But yes, fairly limited that we found.
And it sounds like you have a working history with them already.
We do.
Okay.
Yes.
And then if by chance the comp plan is not completed this year, would this data still be used for the comp plan, say it was delayed? I'm not saying we're going to do that. I'm just saying could the data still be used a year later? Or would it have to be?
No, it could be used a year later. You wouldn't want to wait and get too far out.
Right.
We certainly would have the need to go back out and do that monitoring again. I don't think a year removed would be too far out to use that data, but I don't think we'd want to get too much further out than that.
Thanks, Greg.
And we do have a requirement through DOE to complete that comp plan. So.
Understand. I like to ask what-if questions.
Yes,
so
I
thank you.
understand.
Okay. Any other questions for Craig?
I have one more. Sorry about that. Yeah, you did clarify kind of where I was going with the purchase outright. From what we learned from the tour of the sewage treatment plant, again, the positives of getting out to tour the infrastructure and learn a little bit about it. The I&I projects going on, the Basin 3 project, et cetera, being able to kind of monitor that and see that improvement in the system. The other concern, maybe not a concern, but the other thought would be with the increased flows, the 100-year flood scenarios and stuff like that, just having that equipment on board. I would almost be willing at this point to look at this in a little bit more detail going into 2019 or 2020 or whatever fiscal years to see. I see advantages of having permanently installed data collection equipment to prove that we're being good stewards of our resources and infrastructure. Understanding the impacts that you laid out, but something for us to work on.
So we thought about that also, and we see the need to, any sewer basin that we do, as we do with any project, as we did with Downtown Connector Project, we took traffic counts, we took speed counts. We want to be able to quantify what those benefits are, and we certainly see that with any future sewer basin project. We should have done flows before we started sewer basin 3. Unfortunately, that was before my time down here at City Hall. So in the future, basin 4 is likely the next sewer basin. We certainly will have monitoring stations out in sewer basin 4 before we ever start that project to see what those benefits are after we complete the project. So with that being said, we certainly see the need for that also with an infrastructure project, whether it be a transportation, water, or sewer project, stormwater, whatever it might be. We see the need for that also, and we certainly hear you. It's our same objective to make sure that we do that.
And following that, would that be something that could be or would be addressed in the comp plan as far as maybe more permanent monitoring, or would that be something outside the comp plan?
I think it would be outside the comp plan. I think it would be something where we would likely, and we talked about this also, of even purchasing just a couple of them, renting the other 4. We weighed that option too, and thought at this point, with where we're at, we really should have gotten this going earlier in the winter. Luckily, November was pretty dry. We didn't have any major storm events in November. Normally we do, but likely in 2020, we would budget to purchase a couple of these to install in Sewer Basin 4, and then maybe start to build our inventory from there and purchase them in the upcoming years after that.
And Mayor, my last question is what's the frequency of updates for the sewer?
6 years, every 6 years, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
No further questions.
Thank you,
Well, you
Greg.
guys really took as long as Mark did for all of them.
I do have one more question.
Uh-oh.
I was saving it. So, did I hear you say that at this point, we can't not purchase, we can only afford to rent them? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not the case. We certainly, if this council wanted us to purchase 6 of them, or any quantity of those, I certainly think, I'm looking at Sandy right now and not putting her on the spot, but looking at the sewer budget, I think likely we would have to push that into 2019. We would likely purchase now. Those wouldn't likely be invoiced until 2019 anyway. So that certainly is an option. It was just staff's recommendation that we don't do that. But certainly if this council feels strongly enough that they would like to purchase those monitoring systems and install them somewhat permanently, you would likely take them out for maintenance during the summer. There's not really those events, but certainly if we wanted to own those, that is certainly an option. You're looking at about a $40,000 rental as opposed to about an $80,000 to $85,000 purchase. So that is certainly something that we could look at if this council would like to do that. We're open to any of those possibilities.
Is that $40,000 a year to rent them, or?
Well, it's only a 1 year, as Councilmember Schmidt pointed out. Once we take them out, you don't have a monitoring station at all. So if we purchase them, we could get through what we need for data for the 6-year plan, but then we would have those to install in other sewer basins to look at, what we're getting for I&I in other locations. And likely we would have them 6 years from now to reinstall in other locations, whatever we needed for the sewer comp plan. But it would provide us data for future sewer basin projects.
Easier
And
to-
that's the advantage.
Easier to get some grant money and funding for when you have more of the.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Any of that data that you have up front, I think we've been fairly fortunate that we've gotten grant funding for sewer basin projects with really not having any data. We're guessing and saying, we have an I&I problem, and everybody's believed us so far, but I think we certainly will be able to see the effects of Sewer Basin 3 within our system once it's completed. We haven't been able to do that just because the excess has been surcharging manholes. We haven't necessarily been able to really capture each sewer basin that we do, the effects of that. I think we will really see it now because we don't have surcharging manholes. It's all in the system, so we'll be able to see that reduction. But again, completely open to if this council feels strongly about having permanent monitoring stations and want to have that expenditure of around $80,000, we certainly are. We're certainly open for that also.
Craig, I just want to clarify a couple things. One is I'm not opposed to long-term purchase and maintenance of it, but in the short term, you're on a tight timeline, right, to get these in for this year, which you already said if we had a normal November, it'd almost be too late. Or
Not
we
too
would
late.
have missed we would have missed at least one event, probably 1 or 2 events, normal November.
Yeah, they're looking for 4 events over any time period.
And we're comparing renting and installation and capturing the data.
Correct.
Versus just purchasing, so we'd have to add the time and all the resources to complete all that onto just a straight purchase, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And yes, with that being said, if this council wants sewer staff to go and do that activity, we certainly will get it done. But that is the reason why staff recommended the rental of it in the first place, so. That's still our recommendation.
I think I would agree with staff's recommendation at this point, something we can talk about in the future. And I think Bob hit the nail on the head. It's just not 40/80, it's 40/80 plus.
Absolutely.
So we have a motion. Any more discussion on this motion, which is as staff recommended to contract for the installation and the data collection?
The motion, Mayor, I would say the motion stands as.
Yes, so that's what the motion is for. So it's on, okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the sewer flow monitoring and authorize the interim city manager to sign the data delivery services agreement. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, Craig.
You're welcome.
And now we know why we do things with multiple touches.
Yes.
But no, that was.
I do apologize
and
for
that was
bringing
not a
that forward
negative.
and
I
waiving
understand.
the two-touch, or the three-touch rule.
I
do
understand
apologize.
this was timely, but.
Yes.
But, okay, and now we're to city manager for his report. Or is Sandy going to give the report?
No, I'm going to give it a But I'm somewhat reticent to call back on Craig again but I do want to recognize Craig, an announcement that I know the council is aware of, but I'd like Craig to talk about a recent funding that was provided to the city.
So, as Mike stated, I know that all of you are already aware of the Transportation Improvement Board funding that we did receive. And I just want to, it's in the amount, urban sidewalk program at the amount of $350, fully funded, what we asked for within our application, and two different applications. And then the arterial preservation program, the paving portion, funded fully again for the ask of $410,400, totaling just over $760,000 this year. And I would just like to commend the Public Works staff and how much effort they put into this. It was right after we lost our senior associate engineer. The application was due not too long after that. We had not started it. And when we did lose our senior associate engineer, I was leaving on what I didn't realize was a very much so working vacation at that point, trying to get these two applications completed and have a chance at this. We weren't very optimistic that we were going to receive them after the large grant that we got last year. But I think with the quality of the application and what staff put into it, especially Brooke Kiltz, the administrative manager, and the time that she put in working with me in a remote location and getting that completed and signed and submitted. Certainly this staff, with right in the middle of an $11 million, two projects totaling $11 million, and being right in the middle of those, going after additional grant funding and having the time and effort to go and complete those. Again, just commending the Public Works staff for completing those and quality and getting those submitted. So happy to report on that and look forward to not only a project within the city limits, but we are hoping and have had discussions of a much larger corridor project, hopefully, in the future.
Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Craig. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great work.
Yeah.
Look forward to more to come on that project.
Yes.
A couple things I want to talk about tonight. One is just to, again, call your attention, and I know you've received copies of the press release that went out today on the city manager process, Thursday and Friday of next week. You can see the names have been released. And just to identify them for the record, the finalists include Anthony Hempstead, Senior Advisor, State of Washington Treasurer's Office. David Kelly, Senior Consultant, a company called MagWest. Previously, he was a city administrator, excuse me, for the city of Selah, Washington, and went down to Surprise, Arizona, where he was a public works director there. Scott Mazaros, Town Administrator of the town of Meeker, Colorado. Jeffrey, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, it's either Knighton or Nitton, Community Development Director of the city of Ridgefield, Washington, down by Vancouver. No, somewhere down there. And Keith Staley, Community Planning and Development Director for the city of Olympia. I think we have 5 well-qualified candidates, and I look forward to your interviews with these candidates next Thursday, a public open house from 5 to 6:30 Thursday evening, and followed up by panel interviews with a mix of senior staff and community leaders pretty much all day on Friday, and then your deliberations will be at 3 o'clock. We'll have a room large enough that the council can observe those Friday interviews as you requested. Oh, I think we've got a great group here, and we look forward to those candidates coming to pay us a visit. Any questions about the process? Okay.
No.
Good. You have before you a brochure from United Way. We had a very compelling presentation by the director of the Mason County United Way come to our leadership meeting last week. And I thought it was very important that the council be aware of what United Way does in the community. We have a small, quite small actually, number of city employees that contribute to United Way. I think it is a cause worth contributing to. In my previous life, we were huge supporters of United Way. And when we first started contributing, there maybe were a small handful of us that did contribute to United Way, and that grew to the majority of the staff, over 60 people. So I think that it says a lot if the council leads the way, excuse me, with contributing to United Way. So I just throw that out there for your individual consideration. I'm not trying to do a hard sell on their behalf. So thank you. Some calendaring things that we need to talk a little bit about. We have, technically speaking, a study session scheduled for Christmas Day, December 25th. And without just unilaterally determining that we're not going to do it, I figure we could set up a tree and we could share gifts, or we could not have the study session.
Sorry, no can do.
Do we get eggnog?
There's really no, there's no motion required because those study sessions will happen as they're required. But at this point, we're assuming that unless you all do want to be the Grinches that we've indicated on the looking ahead, we'll assume there's no study session.
Need a motion for that.
Okay.
Are you serving turkey?
Yeah, I don't know my serving turkey, no, it's prime rib.
Oh.
And then the following Tuesday happens to be January 1st. And since we're planning looking ahead items currently to the end of February, if not beyond, we would like to have the council consider a couple of options. One would be to stay with that week and move the council meeting to January 2nd, that Wednesday night, or you could substitute that January 1st meeting to the next week, to January 8th, and that would be 2 council meetings back-to-back to put us back on the schedule. So I present that as 2 different options for you to consider, and it would be great if you could determine those tonight.
Okay.
Well, the second option does eliminate a study session, so
It
it's
does.
something we need to consider.
Wednesday's fine with me.
Wednesday's fine with me.
Fine with me also.
Okay.
Wednesday, January 2nd.
Wednesday, January 2nd.
Great.
Okay.
We've got that for the record, Donna. Thank you very much. Almost last, on December the 20th at 3 o'clock here in the Civic Center, The Shelton Municipal Court wants to invite you to a reception honoring Judge Steele, who, as you know, got elected to the district court judge position. Judge Steele has been a judge for the city for quite some time, and I think it would be appropriate if as many council members that could be here to thank him for his service to the city.
What time is that?
December the 20th at 3 o'clock.
December?
Yes.
December.
December.
3 o'clock, December.
Second to the last thing, this Friday afternoon, Friday evening, 5:30. Have your TV's tuned to the Apple Cup and go Cougs. I don't want to hear any other.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
And happy Thanksgiving to all of you this week.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I just realized I forgot one important thing at the beginning of the meeting. Can we have a motion to excuse Councilmember Dorsey tonight?
No, too late.
Okay.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Final agenda item is new items for discussion. Nothing at this time? Okay. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, December 4th at 6 p.m. We are adjourned.
Hey, there's a structure there.